FCC Chairman Ajit Pai has maintained that he wants to roll back Title II net neutrality regulations because these regulations are overly burdensome. They not just stifle innovation, but they also hurt small businesses. And he also states that he wants to remove these regulations because he believes that the internet should be free and open. Now, if his line of reasoning makes no sense to you, you're not alone, because currently businesses on the internet are thriving. They're doing great. And furthermore, the internet is already free and open. In fact, don't take my word for it. Try it. Try going to any website you could think of. And if you're able to access that website without receiving a message popping up from your ISP telling you that this website isn't currently included in your broadband package, then the internet is free and open. So the reason why Ajit Pai's reasoning doesn't make sense is because he's lying to you. He's trying to obfuscate the truth about what net neutrality is and does because he previously worked for Verizon. He was an attorney for Verizon. And Verizon is a company that will profit heavily if net neutrality is repealed. And when he ultimately ruins the internet and then leaves the FCC, you can bet that they'll likely offer him an even better job than he had before with the nice hiring bonus. So back in May, the FCC voted to repeal Title II net neutrality regulations, and currently they are undergoing a process where they have to listen to feedback from the public. And the public has submitted an unprecedented amount of comments to the FCC at nearly 13 million, more than ever before, and most of them tell Ajit Pai to leave the internet alone. But even though those comments, along with public opinion polls, show that the overwhelming majority of the American people disapprove of Ajit Pai's pro-corporate agenda, well, recently, he basically tacitly admitted that there's nothing we can do to change his mind. So Ars Technica reports that in an exchange between Ajit Pai and Democratic lawmaker Michael Doyle, he asked Pai what kind of comment would cause you to change your mind. Pai responded, economic analysis that shows credibly that there's infrastructure investment that has increased dramatically since the net neutrality rules went into effect. Pai said he also would take evidence seriously if it shows that the overall economy would suffer from a net neutrality rollback or that startups and consumers can't thrive without the existing rules. Advocacy group Free Press has presented analysis that it says shows a 5% increase in ISP investment during the 2-year period after the net neutrality vote, and capital increases at 16 of 24 publicly traded ISPs, but Pai has expressed disdain for Free Press, calling it a spectacularly misnamed Beltway lobbying group that demands government control over the internet. Meanwhile, different studies that showed investment declines have been cited favorably by Pai. Doyle yesterday also asked FCC Commissioner Michael O'Reilly, a Republican, if anything would stop him from voting for a net neutrality rollback. I'm looking to the record to see if anything changes my mind. I'm looking for substantive comments, O'Reilly said. When asked for an example of a, quote, substantive comment, O'Reilly said economic analysis and real evidence of harm to consumers versus some of the material I've been getting. While there are millions of comments, many of those comments are empty and devoid of any value, O'Reilly said. So in other words, nothing is going to change their mind. He says he's looked at some of the comments that we submitted and he thinks that they're devoid of value. So we're telling him leave the internet alone, and he's saying, well, these aren't substantive concerns. Even though we don't want you to roll out this pro-corporate agenda, they are going to do it anyway. So there's nothing that we can do to appease them. When you give them the evidence they're looking for, they attack the source, and this is because they have an agenda. They have a pro-corporate agenda that is wholly motivated by profit, and it's why Ajit Pai can't come up with a single reason that's actually legitimate as to why we should be rolling back Title II net neutrality regulations. So in front of the Senate Commerce Committee, Senator Markey asked Pai what problem he's trying to fix by repealing net neutrality rules. Pai responded by saying, one of the concerns we have raised is these regulations might be dampening infrastructure investment. They might be, but there's no evidence of it, Markey fired back. So again, all that we are getting from the FCC Chairman, Ajit Pai, and the FCC Commissioner, Michael O'Reilly, It's just lies and obfuscation. They don't know how to do anything but lie. It's lie, 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 lie after lie after lie. And it's really becoming tiresome at this point. They can't give us anything. And as a result of the FCC being so corrupt and lacking so much transparency, they are now paying the price. They're being sued. So Del Cameron of Gizmodo reports the Federal Communications Commission is being sued over its failure to adhere to a federal transparency law and for wrongfully withholding agency records about net neutrality from the public. American Oversight, a legal watchdog group formed this year to expose conflicts and fraud in the Trump administration's executive departments, filed a lawsuit Tuesday morning against the FCC for failing to comply with provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. Led by a former State Department attorney, the group is asking a federal judge in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia to compel the release of records concerning the FCC's plans to gut net neutrality. The FCC has made it clear that they're ignoring feedback from the general public, the group's executive director, Austin Evers, told Gizmodo. So we're going to court to find out who they're actually listening to about net neutrality. If the Trump administration is going to let industry lobbyists rewrite the rules of the internet for millions of Americans, we're going to make them do it in full view of the public. So the FCC has gone rogue. They want to go against the overwhelming majority of the American people and kill net neutrality at the behest of these large internet service providers that will profit heavily and offer these FCC scumbags jobs. So at this point, it's just everything that they're saying is a farce. They've offered us no good reason why net neutrality should be repealed. They're claiming that it stifles innovation and that the internet is no longer free and open, when that's bullshit. It's demonstrably false. Again, don't take my word for it. Go to any website you could think of. The internet is currently free and open, but rolling back Title II net neutrality regulations will make it so that way it's not free and open, because internet service providers like Verizon can throttle the bandwidth of competitors like Netflix, which we actually found out that they're already doing. So the FCC is going against the public and they're refusing to listen. So here's what's going to happen. We're already suing them for a lack of transparency, but we are going to sue them if they go through with these anti-American changes. Because look, it should never be the case that a couple of unelected bureaucrats go against the overwhelming majority of the American people. I'm okay with bureaucrats having power if they're actually trying to be attentive to what the American people want, but these guys aren't doing that. They're bought off by the industry. They are so corrupt that they don't care about the consequences. They don't care how repealing net neutrality will harm consumers, will harm businesses, and stifle innovation, and basically hurt everything they claim to care about. So this has got to be stopped. So it's not too late for you to submit your comment. They may not care about it, but as long as we can keep getting those numbers up, then it helps strengthen our case against these clowns in the FCC who are doing the bidding of their corporate overlords.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.